Okay, just checking my audio, video, making sure that I'm visible. Just a second. Making sure that I'm visible. Got it. Okay, guys. Welcome to EQ, Unlocking EQ Mastery using Brain Skills. We are on episode number 47. And hopefully, we'll complete this 100 episodes journey very, very successfully, making sure that insights and experience has been enhanced for my viewers. And emotional intelligence is needed for any gender, any age group, any location you are in, any religion, no culture boundaries. So it is more of a life skill. It is not a soft skill. It is not a hard skill. It is more to do with to towards how we conduct our life. So how we are in personal life is how we are going to be in professional life also. How we are able to communicate with others and with ourselves is how we are going to be at work or anywhere. On that note, we are going to be discussing again another interesting episode about how to master emotional insight skill in order to help you better your communication at work with good amount of empathy and clarity in you. So that is going to enhance your collaboration effect, improve your communication skills, and also better your relationship with team dynamics at work. So it's a very important skill set for any professionals, okay, irrespective of any gender, any age. As long as you're working at work, it is important to enhance these areas. And let's see how emotional intelligence, one of the key skill set in emotional intelligence is emotional insight. How insightful are you in reading emotions? So that will help you enhance these areas. So in this episode, we will be diving into mastering emotional insight in workplace. Using what elements? Using your brain power. Left brain, right brain, and both the brains together. We're going to see some hacks, expert tips, and a lot of examples to let you know the importance of emotional insight and how you can effectively use it. On that note, let me quickly share my presentation. All right. If you're watching me on, just give me a thumbs up and just let me know if I am audible, visible. So that way I'll know that it is the presentation is clear enough. All right, guys. Super. So we are on 47th episode. And in the previous episode, we looked at very, very key skill set. I mean, in fact, all these skill set, all these talents that we will be discussing under emotional intelligence is all connected. So I would highly recommend you to go through the previous episodes to see where we started and where we are right now and where we will be moving towards. So we started with resilience. We went deeper and wider in order to understand how logical emotional resilience helps, how as a parent leader, business entrepreneur, how as an individual, how you can bounce back like a pro. Similarly, we saw for critical thinking, problem solving, proactivity, emotional insights. We have been seeing a couple of episodes on emotional insight as well. We saw empathy, there are so many things that, so many skill set that we have gone deeper and wider in order to make sure that emotional intelligence is not limited to only busy moms. Of course, this entire series is dedicated to busy moms, but that doesn't mean emotional intelligence is not applicable to anybody. In fact, as a matter of fact, and certain principles that I would like to share as a pre-context before I get into each and every episode is I've been grinding the same principles again and again in order to make sure that you will understand and approach emotional intelligence that way. One, it is always learnable. It is not age restricted, and it is never a mastery skill set. In fact, when you think you are attaining a mastery in skill, a particular skill or a talent, that means it's giving you a danger symbol, danger signal that you need to go back to the awareness mode again to ensure that you are maintaining the balance. And in essence, what we are actually talking is in the series, we will see brain hacks to develop your left brain, right brain, or activate your left brain, right brain skills, and how integratedly how you are well integrated with using your both logic and emotion brain. This is my left side and this is my right side, so I will be indicating accordingly. So the idea is to bring that logical and emotional brain together to give you the maximum output and optimal performance. Okay, because emotional intelligence is all about maintaining the midbrain activity, because that is where your executive center is there anatomically. The brain executive center lies here. That is where the decision making is happening. So what is the manifestation of somebody being, how do you identify somebody being emotionally intelligent? One, you can say that they are very calm, composed, and all that. But effectively, as an outcome, as a metric for them, how do you measure that? Is through their choices in life. Am I right? And choices meaning decision making. And are we not deciding? Are we not decision makers at our individual level? You may be a student who is watching, or you may be an adult who is watching. You may be a mother, or you may be a father. You may be a working professional. You may be a leader. You may be a business entrepreneur. Don't you think that we are all deciding? Even a 7-year-old is able to decide for herself or himself, right? That means we are taking choices every moment, starting from, which mode of platform I should be communicating to you, what amount of inputs that I have to decide, and what is the examples that I have to give you, what is the topic, how do I dress up, and what is the coffee that I need? Is it a strong coffee or light coffee? What is the movie that I want to watch, or what is the conversation that I would like to start? All these are decisions, right? Starting from small, it need not be always bigger decisions. Decision can still be the smaller choices. Do you want to brush your teeth with the left side or right side? That could start with brushing your teeth. It's just that we have gone into autopilot because we have tuned ourselves to a certain habits and patterns. Okay. That comes to a next subject, where next step is to break those patterns and make you aware so that you don't get overdue on any particular pattern. The idea is not to put you in autopilot at all, make you auto respond. You see, all these elements talk about how you can essentially use your logic and emotional brain in order to deliver your role effectively. Okay. And in this 100 series, if you're committed to travel with me, you will figure out what are those evergreen principles that, will stay in your mind. And then what are those strategies, new strategies that you can learn and implement it then and there. Starting, like if you're watching an episode right now, at the end of the episode, you will find a lot of tools and gifts that I will be giving you, based on which you can enhance those skill set in your daily practices. Okay. And always remember, emotional intelligence is not an outside study. It is the wisdom within us. So all we are doing here is to tap that awareness and to tap that power, to tap that wisdom in you. All right. With that note, we'll see what we have today. We're going to cover how using empathy, clarity, and emotional insight, how you can start reading nonverbal cues so that that can enhance your collaboration skills and communication skills at work. So you need to understand generically what is emotional insight. Okay. And as I mentioned, I've also done few, recent previous episodes are also falling under the category of emotional insight and empathy. If you have not watched, I would highly recommend you to do so. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel so that whenever I come live, you will get notified, and even for future episodes. On that note, so generically, you need to understand the ability to understand and manage emotions during interactions leading to effective communication. Now, how do your left brain approaches this? Using logical observation during that conversation, you're able to recognize how emotions impact the communication dynamics and outcomes. This is called emotional insight. A person who is aware of what amount of impact their words, their tone, their conversations, their listening capacity, all that will take an impact on the listener. If they are able to be aware of their own, delivered, at the same time, they are able to read those gestures, non-verbal gestures, whatever is not being told, whatever is not concrete. If you can read those intangible ones, that means you are insightful about someone else's emotions. Ideally, principally, it has to start within selves. If you should be able to, like, if you are able to read your own emotions really well, you can identify the same in others. Sometimes it could be so that certain individuals are very, very good in reading other people's emotions because that's how their brain works. But when they have to, walk towards insight, what is happening inside, inward them. They may struggle. Okay, that is only means the self component is not yet activated. So because emotional intelligence is not only about others, okay, that is another wisdom I would like to give it to you, that principally emotional intelligence is not just for others. It is more towards, in fact, starts with yourself. You take empathy, it starts with self empathy. You take awareness, it starts with self awareness. You take decision making, how you are able to make choices within yourself, for yourself. Okay. You take emotional literacy. How are you able to read your own emotions? Right? How are you able to regulate your own emotions? And only then you can lead others. On that note, how your right brain is going to help you is when you're doing a communication, okay, when there is a conversation happening, your logical brain is allowing you to observe those logical cues, okay, to understand the dynamics and outcomes. Now, your right brain is allowing you to tap into that emotional intuition to read in between the lines in conversation. How nice it is, right? Because nobody has telepathic abilities, right, between a spouse, husband and wife. It is important for the wife to make the husband really know what they are feeling inside. They need to use those words, phrases. They need to communicate. Okay, sometimes verbally, sometimes not verbally. And it is also possible that humanly, only that much they can do. What about the contribution from the other side? If the husband is able to read in between lines where they fail to express or they are finding it difficult to express, not always. So the relationship grows when how deeper can it grow? It's like, they say, right? There is a parable that even by look of somebody, even by the look, the other person can read that, emotion, what's going on. So that is how deeper can a relationship go on. It just not with in a romantic relationships alone. It is even with parent and a child. Just by looking at the child, a parent clearly knows, what is going on in the child. And it's sometimes it's the same with the child also. Just by the look of the parent, the child will know, mama is angry or daddy is angry. I shouldn't approach them now. They don't seem to like what I'm doing. Maybe there is something wrong that I'm doing. So these things are reading in between lines. What if you're able to do not just with the familiar people, if you're able to do with people around you, like at work, so that'll be a superpower, right? So that's what we're going to see how we are going to enhance that. Now, let's understand why we have to do this. What are the advantages? In this series, I would like to tell you, because we are activating our brain scales, it is more of a biological organ, right? We are trying to rewire. So in order to satisfy your logical brain, I'm trying to give you all that importance and, give you that much data for you to, first of all, accept the fact that it is important. Once you gain that acceptance, you will look for some insights. Okay. That is where you're stepping into your awareness zone. You're going to build that awareness. And the moment you gain that awareness or insights, it is important for you to apply it immediately. Okay, at least within 24 hours, pick up some, one or two insights that you gained in this episode and immediately put that into practice and consistently do it at least for next 7 days. Then that is the first step that you're taking to rewire your brain. Okay, you may be watching this episode. You may be a person who right now needs this. It's like a need of the hour right now in your life. Okay, it's like you're desperate. You've been missing this, and somehow you felt this is the missing element in you. You need this. So that person naturally will try to, gain this insight and then start applying it. Or you may be somebody who's just watching, gaining some new awareness. Okay, it's still not come into your experiential life. Okay, you may be keen to develop yourself. You're just going to try it out. Okay, there's nothing harm in trying, but you still be able to apply it. Okay, there also again you're stepping into rewiring. It's totally fine because that's how people develop their personality, because not everybody has to wait for the hard hit on life, on your head to make that thing, life need not hit us hard to make us understand that it is important. So on that note, you may be in any journey of your life. Okay, emotional intelligence is even more demanded at this point of time more than ever, because After the social media has invaded our space and time at a family, we don't have even time to listen to each other, whether it is with parent and child, or between spouse, or between boss and employee, or between a customer and a business person. Nobody has time. Okay, because we have so many options. We have so many instant gratification around us. So many things have come into our access. Earlier, it was not like that, because of which we had time to explore, to think creatively, to approach, to make an effort. But right now, just with the fingertip, the palm of the hand, everything is coming on to us. So on that essence, people are driving towards what? They are accelerating their growth towards what? This is not actually growth. This is actually leading towards disasters. And we are right now in mental health pandemic, and there are few more pandemic lined out. If you realize it or not, whether you like it or not, we are already in the second pandemic. We don't know. God knows how many more pandemic comes. And this is more critical and towards leaning towards the human process, because we just completed one pandemic. We got to know what is the lesson from it, and we are not living in isolation anymore. We can't live in isolation, which means we will end up being with people only. Whether you are in isolation, not with people, or you are with people, either ways, you're running emotions in you. Okay. And the same emotion could be running in the other person whom you're living with, whether you're at work or in family, in a comfort zone. Either ways, the emotions keep going on. And that's what is driving your performance also. Performance is nothing like, where at work you're being measured with your performance. Even at family, you need to perform at your optimal energy, optimal focus, optimal profits, right? You need to make sure that there is a balance. Like, you don't want to deplete your time, resources, money, efforts, right? We keep taking choices. So what is going to enable you to continue to do it to your favorite, I mean, to your, what do you call, to your advantage? These skills. So having necessarily, it is very important. Any role you play, you need to have this, for example, this emotional insight. So you align your thought process. When I pick up an advantage, you align your thought process in two angles from here on. One, how individually you're tapping that brain skills in your power. Okay. Second thing is, if your role is at work, like you are a working person, then it is even more important how you're going to use all this in your work, in case you don't find your strength already here. So either ways, it is going to be advantageous for you. Okay, I've given you enough data point, context is set. Now I'm also presenting to you what are the evidences how you can deliver this emotional insight at work and in your relationship, where you will find a better communication, good collaboration is happening, so you will find the outcome. So let's talk about advantages. First thing is improved collaboration. So when you have an emotional insight, it's going to open up your communication skills. And thereby, when you are open and honest, it is going to reduce the conflict in between your teams. Okay, you can apply the same thing with your family also. Now, conflict resolution. So you will have reduced conflict. It's not that you're not going to have conflicts at all. It is bound to happen, because situations, world is moving fast, highly competitive. Market has a lot of turndowns. Okay, there's going to be a lot of stress, whether you like it or not. But you will have a reduced intensity with all these skills in place. So it's going to help you resolve workplace conflicts more constructively by understanding the underlying emotions. Then what happens? You will naturally be found as a person who is able to mediate really well. You will be found as a leader there. So thereby, you're able to communicate more effectively, gain that trust, and build that loyal people around you. Okay. Some more benefits could be, when you are able to do this, mediate effectively, and people are listening to you, what happens is your productivity gets increased individually and your team also. Okay. And then what's going to happen is high employee morale. So these are all cascading effect of it. Now let's talk about what happens when you overdo on it. We are not talking about anything disadvantage that, suppose you don't have the skill. Second angle is what happens when you overdo on it. Okay. So when we look at brain skills, I am always particular to let you know that the more you are able to skill yourself, upskill yourself, the more awareness that you need to bring, that you don't overdo on upskilling also. You just maintain the balance. Balance is the key here. Harmony is the next key source here. If you just remember these two words about emotional intelligence, you are already getting the message. Any skill, any talent, any areas you want to work, when you want to develop emotionally intelligent, you need to have these two in place. One is balancing both the logic and everywhere, dark and light, awareness and, compassion. So it's like logic and emotion, creativity. Everything has to be balanced, right? Fun and sometimes seriousness. Work while you work and play while you play. Everything has its polarity. But how much you have everything in balance is what is the game. Second thing is balancing itself. There is a problem if you try to overdo on a balance. You just have to let it loose with some, harmony, making sure that it is in harmony, letting yourself go, letting your perfection go. We're all human beings. How much can we optimally be available and make use of the resources and optimally perform? That's all we need to see. So there also for balance, there is a balance called harmony. So if you understand this, message very clearly, give me a smiley in the comment box. That means you get the essence of what we are trying to talk about, balancing the both the brains and emotional intelligence, and getting you in the midbrain activity and all that. Okay. Now let's talk about overdoing on emotional insight. What will happen is it'll give you a emotional overload, because the more you're trying to read other people's cues and you're able to navigate those emotions at work, it could be really mentally exhausting. Okay, especially in high stress environment, because people come with different set of energy. They have their own background. It could be somebody could be very intense stories. Somebody could have you know some lazy patterns, some adamant patterns that they are not able to, understand or interpret, or there could be a lot of difficulty. Okay, but when you start doing all that dissecting, and when you start acting like, superhero or a godlike, it is going to be very, very exhausting. That is why balance. You got to retreat. You got to come out of it, right? So what happens next one is it could also be due to blurred boundaries. If you are not able to come out, if you cannot say, okay, stop, take a pause. If you are not able to take a pause, break it, and you can always come back. But if you do not know when to say no, then it's like over focusing, leading you to only burnout. Okay. Over involvement with colleagues can jeopardize your position or your personal emotions overflowing. Okay. You get swayed by your colleague's emotion, thereby you also get succumbed to it. You need to have that boundaries in place, especially at work. And then it'll also slow down your decision making. How many of you have felt by the time you listen to people, challenges and trying to understand how you can help them out, the criticality of the project is already gone past. So you need to be hands-on. At the same time, you need to have that boundaries. You need to work within that boundaries. Okay. For which you need to know how to say no. First of all, you should be very clear what to say no for. Okay. Then additionally, it could be a difficulty of detaching also. Somebody who's swayed by other people's emotion, you're not able to say no for that person. Maybe you're too attached that you're not able to let go. Okay. So over identifying with others' emotions can make it hard to maintain objectivity at all. Being very subjective, it may lead you to only take biased decisions. Okay. You may fail to see the logical, that is objective side of it. That is why balance again. While you're working on an emotional processing with other people's emotion, your logical brain has to also help you work. Or you should not dismiss taking the logical data either ways. Okay, that is why your bubble has to be in the midbrain, so that you're not too over in this place, emotionally driven, that you're not able to see the logic data at all. Neither you should be too logical when you're dealing with emotions with people, because you like you won't make sense for that person. It doesn't work well with that person because they are right now emotionally stressed out, right? So you need to have that balance. then emotional misinterpretation can also happen. Misreading emotions can also lead to misunderstanding and unintended conflict. How many of you have felt this? I have been through that. Sometimes somebody has misread my emotions, and sometimes I had misread. While I'm working on that, as I said, there is no mastery, right? It keeps evolving because every other person we deal with in our, every stage of life could be very, very different. For that matter, our own family, it's totally different. Your personal relationship could be five fingers or not same anywhere. Different age group, different likes and dislike, different life growth, biologically, psychologically, they grow through. And then the market is also growing. Now, pandemic also happened. Before pandemic, the world is different. After pandemic, world is entirely different, right? Especially after social media is, controlling our time and space. The mood of the person whom you're dealing with, the same familiar person could act very differently, right? It is that very dynamic and volatile also at the same time. So now that you understood emotional insights, so somebody who doesn't have it, what happens is their communication become very strained, leading to misunderstandings and lack of trust. It could be so that you're a manager who doesn't have an emotional insight, can read the late comings of a person into your meetings as something they are lazy or they are very indisciplined, right? Maybe that will only lead you to extra confusions and conflicts. Maybe they are really going through some problems. Maybe there is a travel problem for them. Maybe the weather could be very nasty that they are unable to be on time. It could be a personal relationship problem that they are struggling to combat while they are also maintaining the, trying to come to office, quickly. So you need to really look at the pattern, really look at the underlying emotion as to why this behavior, right? Suppose you do have this skill, then there is like understanding that you're exhibiting more than blame or punishment. So you're approaching with some empathy, compassion, as well as giving them a clarity. Okay, that is why emotional insight can help you get you those data point. Statistically, also, it is proved that teams with emotionally insightful leaders can have 34% better communication and 42% higher job satisfaction. Now, who needs this? Leaders to communicate effectively with team, building trust, managers to resolve conflicts, okay, by navigating team dynamics, professionals who need to improve interpersonal skills, work relationships. When I say professionals, it could not just be an IT professional, it could be doctors who are future doctors or who are already having team, right? Or it could be advocates when they are dealing with case studies with their clients, or it could be simply be business people. Anybody running a product business or a service business, as long as they have people involved in it within their team or outside their team, it is needed to take care of it. And again, this is more needed for, especially the career advancing people, because that is where your growth largely depends on the people whom you're working with and your leadership skills. Okay, for you to prove yourself, it is all the more important you start working on yourself right now. Okay. Now, let's talk about every angle separately. And right after we speak about where and all we can apply, we will quickly jump into 5 brain hacks directly. And then one last case study, and we'll wrap it up. So this application is very, very important. So please, take a note of it. Now, emotional insight and entrepreneurs, how does it work? Entrepreneurs who leverage emotional insights can create more resilient and successful businesses. By understanding team members' emotional needs, they can better navigate or motivate their staff, resolving conflicts earlier, and foster creativity innovation through their safety mechanisms. If you make sure the environment is very safe, they can open up and be vulnerable. If you can tell them, if you can create that kind of environment where it is emotionally safe, at the same time, accountability and encouraging. That way, you will increase the employee participation and morale. Okay. It's the same thing how you apply in your family circumstances as well, as a parent with a child or between spouse. It works wonderfully well everywhere. Okay. Even you would need the same thing. You would not open up to anybody just like that. You would look at situations, you would look at people, whether they are trusted or not. So that environment is needed. Okay. For example, an emotionally intelligent founder might notice when a team member are feeling overwhelmed during a rapid growth phase, or it could be an introduction of, launching of a product or a service or a new process inside the office, right? Maybe an AI driven process where, people feel insecure. Right now, AI is taking over, disrupting the industries. There is already a job insecurity. There's already an anxiety in the market. So anything new gets introduced, people jitter. Any changes jitters the people. So if you can proactively adjust the, team dynamics, like if you can read the team dynamics, is there a step back from the employee, from the team? Do they like to do it, or do they actually foresee to do it, or they take a step back? They're not involved. That means there is a signal, right? So maybe you may have to have one-on-one check with them, and have a regular check-in meetings to make sure they are comfortable with the changes. And sometimes it could be a burnout issue where they're too much overwhelmed with their existing current workload itself. Anything new can, overwhelm them because there's an additional responsibility. Either ways, it's best to check in and accordingly, proactively, in fact, adjust what is needed to be done. That way, you are saving a lot of time and energy, and also reducing the lot of, you're able to see the pitfalls and reducing the conflicts. Now, let's see how we are going to apply emotional insight in team meetings. Effective leaders use emotional insight to navigate team meetings by reading both verbal and non-verbal cues from participants. So they are going to recognize the emotions behind employees' concerns and suggestions, including suggestions or concerns, right? Whether it's a hesitation in speaking up or an enthusiasm for new ideas. So if you see an enthusiastic person, what you as a leader, what would you do? If you're a team manager, if you find somebody very enthusiastic, you're going to give them an additional responsibility, make them ownership, give them that ownership, make them accountable, and you're going to see them, skyrocketing in performance, right? Whereas if there is a hesitation in an employee, you're not going to give them an additional job. Instead, you would want to check with them, right? What is the current hesitation? And you can also proactively see whether they will take a step back for the future also. So those are all the cues that you would have to read, right? When a team member crosses their hands, how will you, first of all, let's list out certain cues that you can read through, especially when there is a meeting happening, okay? The first thing comes is, the mood, how it has been set inside the meeting, right? Is it a monotonous, or is it an open dialogue meetings? Okay, is there a fun element in it, or some warm up in it, or directly you're getting into the serious bit of it, the gravity of it? Okay, and how are they receiving it? And sometimes a simple thing could be like a temperature in the room. It could be too cold for them to even focus, or it could be too hot that they, start feeling their own sweat. It's more to do with, these are all non-verbal cues that has to be taken care of, because this is what is going to disturb them on their better, bigger focus. Okay. Similarly, they're crossing their arms. Those are all body gestures. So they're tight fisted. They are maybe they're hesitant, or they're adamant in what they, want to, go through. They're not open enough, basically. Okay. So on that note, you need to pause, take that underlying concerns face to face, either do a one-on-one, or inside the very trusted team, you can ask them to open up. So accordingly, you take measures to address their concerns. Close the loop. Remember this word. Closing the loops is very, very important in any kind of relationship, whether it is at work or with personal. Okay. Now, the third thing is emotional insight and performance reviews. Very critical, right? So it can either be volatile, or it can be very dynamic, actually. It depends on the gravity of the situation. If you're going to be talking to a top rated potential, top rated talent, it's going to be a easy peasy thing, because the individual itself is in high morale. Your job is very easy. But what happens to those conversation where it's like lower rating, or you're trying to put across something very tough to the employee? How would you start reading those emotional insight? Do you even think that it is important? Of course it is important, because as I said, it is not just a concrete data point. It is more to do with the underlying emotions. That is how their uh, that's get manifested in their gestures, in their eyeball movement, in everything, in their disposition, how they sit, how they stand, how they speak, their tonality. These are all nonverbal cues. Okay. So you're going to use emotional insight, transform the performance reviews from potentially stressful conversation into opportunities for growth and connection. You can actually transform that gravitated situation towards optimistic situations. It all depends on you, how you're able to gather data, using the emotional cues in the other person, making them calm and comfort, and then delivering your message. Okay. So leaders who apply this emotional awareness can better recognize an employee's receptiveness to feedback and adjust their approach accordingly. Okay. So you're going to notice signs of defensiveness, which can prompt you to pause, maybe validate it, or even split that discussion. It doesn't mean that you have to complete the same, at one go. It's okay, totally okay. What if the person, right now there are so many disease or illness are coming out. Even when they are dancing and they're having fun, they're going through heart attack, right? It's even more important, as a HR, as a manager, it is important to make them warm and comfortable. Okay, you don't want to jeopardize the situation for both the situation for the individual or for the company and for yourselves. Okay, so you're going to take enough validation from the employee. But that is why in HR, I had worked 16 years as a HR in two big brands. We thoroughly check on the process, right? When we have to communicate this kind of a gravitational situation, we go step by step. So we don't open up the thing, immediately. Before the employee comes for a discussion, he or she is already prepared for it, right? Yet, emotional insight is needed at that point of time also. Okay. Then comes conflict resolutions with emotional insight. Now, at this point of time, I would like to pause and ask you, I would like to take your insight. Of course, I can't see you in person, but I would like to understand how much are you enjoying? Are you really gaining some insights? Give me the comments, give me your emojis in the comment box. I will understand. Okay. Now let's talk about conflict resolutions with emotional insight. As a skill manager, ability to resolve conflicts by understanding the emotions, dividing the disagreements, and not just the surface level issues at all. Okay. I'm going to read it again. You're going to understand the emotions, which is driving the disagreements. Okay. It is very important what divides that agreement at all. On what basis? On what is the reason behind it? It is not all the time collecting logical data. You're not going to ask them to present data. Instead, you're going to listen more to gather the data from your side by just observing. That is how your emotional data can be gathered. Because they are not just going to open up and say, not many of us are able to express what we are feeling outside. And sometimes at workplace, it could be manipulated also. You need to really be able to read between the lines. So recognizing the frustration, fear, feeling undervalued, that is what is going to help you understand, because that is what is fueling their tensions at all. If you can understand that underlying emotion, then your conversations could be objectively taken across. But without underlying the emotional impact, if you are going to touch upon only the surface level, it is not. So the problem is still there. It might erupt anytime. It's just a matter of time. It might even come back to you. But if you want to close that loop, it is important to read that underlying, emotion behind it. So it's like what appears to be a dispute over a project deadlines might actually stem from an employee feeling their contribution being not recognized. They are not being valued. It's the same thing at family also. Between spouse, if you see, you know, conversations erupting, it could be either ways. It could be from the husband side or a wife side, there could be some underlying emotions of not being heard enough, not being listened to enough, not being valued enough. In life, in relationship, only two things. If you can make the other person you're conversing or you're dealing with, if you can make them feel heard and understood, 75% problem gets solved. How many of you feel this is really a bulb on for you? Or if you have really experienced this true in your experiences. If you can make your child feel heard and understood, that's all he or she needs. He say, okay, mama, bye. That's all I want to tell you. That's it. They're gone. But until such time, they're like, they're suffocating. They want to say something, but either you don't give them time, or you're interrupting them, or you're overriding, you're just jumping into giving them advice and not able to listen to what they actually want to say from inside. It's the same case with spouse also, right? Especially women. We want people, we want our spouse to hear us out, right? And it could be the same with your spouse also. You never know. Maybe husbands also want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard and feel valued, right? So leadership, communication, and emotional insight. This is more important and more interesting, right? Leaders who communicate with emotional insight can transform organizations by building deeper trust and inspiring their teams to excel. By reading emotional cues and responding with empathy, they're actually creating a psychological safety. So thereby they're going to encourage open dialogues. Unless it is safe for anybody, they are not going to test the waters. So you as a leader, you're responsible to create that kind of a safe environment and close the loops. So put yourself as a parent or as a spouse or as a community leader or as a manager, right? Or as a team manager, whoever it is, as a person, as a leading person, as a responsible person, you need to create that kind of an environment for people to open up. Once they open up, you should have the ability to gather all that data point, right? Otherwise, if you're not insightful, if you cannot be emotionally aware, then you're losing all the data on the table. There could be a lot of money also, maybe with your client. What if he gives you some signals about, he's feeling his safety, emotional safety is threatened? You're actually misinterpreting the contract. It may not be a contract at all. You're losing the client there. So similarly, for example, if you are announcing organization changes inside your company, okay, please understand emotional intelligent leaders want to acknowledge the team concerns first. Okay, that is why I say step by step, gradually. You're just not going to flash it out. It's like how demonetization announcement happened in our country. On that political note, maybe it's needed. But when you want to do it for your company, where you're actually created an environment where people want to look for trust and loyalty and direction, clarity. So on that note, you just cannot be, upfront. Sometimes only working with logical, data upfront, because that is what is tangible, right? That alone doesn't work. You need to talk about intangible ones as well. How? By growing, stronger relationship, gradually understanding and then taking across. So that is what is going to help you build that stronger buy-in and engagement. Then about emotional insight in your client relationship. As an entrepreneur and professional, whoever leverage emotional insight stronger, they are able to build a lasting client relationship, because they are able to read those subtle cues and understand their concerns. Okay. So if you're an emotionally intelligent consultant, marketing consultant, you might notice the client's satisfaction right there or hesitation right there. Okay. Thereby, you can accordingly adjust your offer. What if you're able to read through their gestures? Maybe they're fidgeting or they are hesitating or they're looking like this or they are like tight fisted. It shows a lot of things for you to accordingly change or modify your offer. Okay. So that's how you take a leverage on these skill set. Now let's talk about 5 actionable brain hacks straight away. Using your left brain, right brain, and both brains for you to enable emotional insight in you. You're going to use your own left brain, right brain approach. Okay. So your right brain, you need to activate this particular talent, active listening for emotional insight. You need to focus. How are you going to focus? Maintain eye contact. Use affirming body language, positive body language. You don't be tight-fisted. Okay? If you have an employee or a person sitting opposite to you, tight-fisted, if you want to, have an open dialogue, you just cannot mirror them this way. Okay? In fact, you want to make them mirror you, your positive gestures, right? You can have a smile, even in performance reviews, right? You can have a smile. It's okay to make the person warm in the beginning and get them prepared. At least when they leave the room, make them warm. Okay? It's very, very important. Critical discussions like this can make the person or break the person. And you are in a responsible position to do that. So have that responsibility in you, have that compassion in you. And after all, it could be performance review at work. It's okay. But it's not the end of the life for both of you, right? You're going to, next is to understand. Right now, you're going to focus and then understand why they are exhibiting that kind of a gesture. Okay? You're going to process the speaker's message, tonality, without forming your response, first of all. A lot of people, they wait to only respond. They are only hearing to reply. They are not listening to respond, actually. Response come with a responsibility after being listened to. Okay? Hearing just like that can happen. You don't even have to focus. Just like that, words come, tone comes, music comes. Because you're already knowing what you have to convey. That's not what is needed in active listening. And that is not what is needed in any relationship. Okay? Take a bit more effort to listen. And, for an example, if you're a team manager, if your team member is sharing a challenge, okay? Instead of giving solutions, first of all, understand where they're coming from. What is the actual background story? And what is the challenge? You don't even have to say, I've been through too, or it's quite normal. Please avoid all these phrases. Okay? Hear them out, listen to them as though you're a new person. You're not referring back to your experiences at all at that point of time. That means you can understand you will be mindful, you will be present there to understand their problem. It's more about them, it's not about you. A lot of people mistake empathy like telling out, I've been there too. It's okay, you will come over. Even before they could finish what is their problem. That's not empathy. That's actually sympathy. And sympathy is not empathy, never going to be empathy. Responding. Now, when you're able to focus, understand, and then naturally response. When you have these two taken care is when you appropriately respond to that situation or to that person. If you cannot focus, if you're not able to understand, your response will also not be appropriate. Okay? When you're responding, what you're going to do is you're going to reflect back, saying whatever you've heard, and validate how that emotion is important for that person before even suggesting next steps. Now, response is not nearly solutions. Responding is validating how much you have heard them, how much you have understood. So that is the response empathy is having on you. Or expectation on empathy skills is that much. Empathy in action becomes compassion. That is where you are offering solutions. But empathy as such doesn't need solutions. It just ends with response with validation. How you're going to do is, I hear that you're frustrated with the project timeline or with a loss of somebody, and that's understandable. If we are talking about work situation, it could be, that loss of somebody could be really intense and gravitational. So that needs a different level of attention. But let's say talking about project or performance, you're going to just say, I hear that it could be really frustrating. That's understandable. Okay, let's explore how we can adjust the schedule, or how we can reduce the conflicts, or how I can encourage you to increase your performance. Okay, that much is the response is expected. Now you're going to wait for the other person to, react on it. Okay, so once you're able to do this, then your active listening is done and you're empathetically put across. Then comes recognizing nonverbal cues. Okay, nonverbal signals can reveal more about emotions than words alone. So watch out for crossed arms. That means defensive. Leaning forward, that means they are engaged. Okay. Imagine when I'm laid back and I'm looking at somewhere and then talking to you, or maybe looking at my mobile, there are a lot of calls coming in. How do you feel myself as engaged with you? You don't find me engaged, right? Similarly, avoiding eye contact can indicate their discomfort level. Maybe they are too shy. Women can, not have an eye contact because culturally we are brought up that way. But at career-oriented women or at work, they may be okay. But staring, like if somebody is looking at them, that could be really shy for that person. So eye contact could be subjective, but also objective based on what situations we are at. Okay. Then paying special attention to micro expressions is very, very important, right? Like fast movements, facial expressions happens, which is happening in a fraction of a second. So you just cannot, people are very manipulative sometimes, and people are very, very expressive. If you can just note down those micro expressions, you will gather all the necessary data. See, for example, during a performance review, if an employee needs, nods while you're saying they are fine and with the feedback, that then it is okay. Whatever feedback you're saying and they are nodding, that there could be some understanding. But their shoulders are stressed and they're like fidgeting. They are looking somewhere, they are looking down, or they may be staring at you because they don't know what to express, right? They could be anxiety, they could be fear, they could be confusion, they could be mixed emotions, right? We need to gather those data and accordingly respond or accordingly continue our conversation. Okay. Then managing emotional triggers. Now, let's say you're able to listen carefully and you're able to recognize those cues. Now, you need to manage their triggers also. Okay. Emotional triggers are situations that provokes strong reactions based on the past experiences. The same performance review with the same manager, they may be having a bad experience in the previous times. So that will all, pop up in front of them at that point of time, even without any invitation. You need to be able to recognize and manage those triggers as well in them. Okay, that is how you maintain that relationship. So that is why I say closing the loops is very important in order to make sure that it doesn't get repeated. Okay, closing the loops doesn't mean fix. It could still be distancing. Okay, maybe taking a pause, that could also be closing the loops for that point of time. But you need to come back to fix it if it's needed, right? So let's talk about some quick fix also. When you expertise in, when your expertise is questioned in a meeting, how would you react? We become self-defensive, right? So we need to pause before responding. You're going to take a deep breath and reply with facts rather than defensive reactions. This goes with both manager and the employee who's receiving it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pause, take a deep breath before responding. If you want further, I'm going to give you a quick fix. Try 333 techniques. Okay. You're going to imagine three things or just see three things around you, hear three things around you, right? And three things which is moving, okay, around you. So that way, you're just going to put yourself in the present moment. That is the best grounding technique that you can have. Mentally can be done, and nobody has to know, nobody will know. And immediately you can do it at any point of time. It can be an, natural, practice. So that will help you emotionally before responding. That will help you ground your emotions before responding. Okay. Remember 333 techniques. Type in the comment box 333. That means you've understood. Three things you're going to hear, three things you're going to see, three things that are moving. Okay. Then comes lastly, about how we are going to use both the brains. We saw right and left. Now we also have to see how both brains are going to help you gather that emotional insight. So the logical approach is ground decisions in concrete data and objective analysis. So that you don't get swayed by emotional insights itself. just by reading their own emotions, you also got lost in their story. Because it is important when you're in performance review, we need to actually follow the process and close the loops, for which you need to have an objective approach as well. So when you're discussing about, let's say, project timelines, okay, referring to the past completion rates and resource availability before making commitments is very, very important. Okay, either you can indicate the failures to make sure that we don't repeat it now, or you can indicate their past mastery experiences to motivate them. Either ways, you're objectively bringing their focus back to the matter. Then emotional awareness, emotionally. So what you're going to do is you're going to recognize how your message is going to affect other people's feelings and motivation. That is your responsibility. Okay. So when you're delivering a feedback, you need to first of all acknowledge their efforts already taken. Before suggesting any improvements to maintain their morale, you need to have that emotional awareness. Okay. And then balanced communication. You're going to blend analytical thinking with that of emotional intelligence to create that resonating messages. That's where you can inspire others. If you have only when you're working in the midbrain is when inspiration comes from you. People get wow. You must have noticed in your previous experiences. Go back to refer. You may be using both. You're very focused, you're logically, strategically approaching while you're able to inspire others because you are able to attract their energy in the vibe. You're able to set the tone. You're able to make them feel safe. You are encouraging them, you're motivating them. So you're going to have a balanced communication like this. You're going to blend analytical thinking with emotional intelligence to create that resonating messages. So when announcing changes, present both business rational and address personal concerns to ensure understanding and getting the right kind of buy-in. Okay. And the last one could be providing emotional feedback. Very, very important to close the loops. Normally, we approach in such a way that, okay, there's a process. I need to complete the performance appraisal and I've gone through the process step by step. That's it. I'm not at fault at all. No, that's not how it works. How has it been received by the employee? See, it could be a simple conversation between a parent also. It could be a course correction activity, course correction conversation, okay, disciplinary conversations or something, right? We may think we have done our duty by just telling what is right and wrong, what is right and what is wrong with the child. But how have they received it? And what amount of residue have you left in the child? It's the same with spouse. It's the same with stranger also. You may be just doing a shopping, and then when you come to the cashier counter, there may be conversations happening. But that could also have an emotional impact. They may be doing their job, but how have they received you? Okay. Even at the cash counter, it's very, critical and it's very fast paced usually. And then it's very alert transaction. But even there, where they able to make it seamless for you and how do they greet you, everything suggests something and everything leaves a residue. So imagine you're doing the same thing with your team members whom you've been working with, day in and day out every other day. It is a relationship you've formed, right? Whether you like it or not, because of the time and effort, energy you're spending. It's the same thing with your family. It's not take it for granted, right? Children are also growing. I mean, they grow their personality, likes and dislikes, and you're also, growing. So we need to ensure that when we are delivering any kind of a feedback, let it be a balanced, constructive criticism with genuine appreciation for emotional investment. I love this word called emotional investment. So creating that kind of memory is very, very important. Be it family vacation or family regular, routine conversations, or adverse situations where, you've held each other. The same thing with work. It could be a critical project deadlines you guys are working on, or it could be a fun celebration mode, an offsite that you are having team building exercises, or if it could be a uh, coffee table conversations, or it could be a lunch chat, or it could be critical organization changes topic, or performance review. It can still have a lasting effect. Okay. Acknowledge both the tangible results with passion and the passion of team members who are bringing their work into into reality. So you can say, I see how much heart you're put into this project before discussing any area of improvement. Simple words like this will definitely bring the intensity down in the other person. The fear, the anxiety can be brought down. Huge. So to make the feedback more emotionally intelligent, you're going to address the concerns with specific examples like, validate their feelings first of all without any judgment. It is their story. What is there to judge? What is there to pass your what do you call rational in that? So you're going to end with actionable next steps that shows you're invested in their growth. Very, very important at work, even in family, right? Sometimes we can go casually, but many times as a parent, it's very important that we invest our time and those conversation into more of a investment in their growth. Okay, but that doesn't mean we constantly tell only lessons of moral of the story, and we don't stick with the moral of the story every time. Sometimes they will explore, they will figure out. You don't have to necessarily tell the moral of the story. They will find out what is the moral of the story sometimes, right? But most of the times we would like to invest in their growth, right? Especially emotional investment is very important. That is our responsibility. Okay, so that is how our children will model us. So this approach will definitely build trust and motivates lasting positive changes in any individual we are dealing with. Now, at last, we're going to see a case study. Again, we have dealt with this person, like we've seen about this person, Sheryl Sandberg's, who was a ex-CEO of Meta Platforms. She just came out of the organization. Her background story is like from 2008 till 2015 or 16, when she was with Facebook, she had a critical time. That's when Facebook was going through a lot of changes, right? Highly fast-paced, highly competitive. And Facebook went through a lot of huge changes inside the company, organizational level, and also in the market. So at that point of time, she being a woman, how she was able to pull through herself in a men-dominated work environment, using her own power and abilities. Plus, personally, she went through an adversity where she lost her husband at that point of time. How, as a woman, how, as an individual, first of all, was she able to bounce back from the adversity? Or was she able to regulate what she was going through as well as perform in her career? So that intrigued me to understand what brain power, brain skills that she should have used in order to navigate that situation individually, first of all. Because losing somebody, grief could be very, very heavy. Grief takes time to overcome. At the same time, how was she able to navigate the, fast pressing, highly pressed challenges that, the Facebook itself transitioned to Meta, and then they had to go through a lot of adversaries. How did she manage to cope up that challenges, and then how did she stabilize the process inside the company? So let's understand her logical, emotional approach and a balanced approach, her leadership style, to understand how she should have used the brain skills. So her logical strategic brain, she used the strategic communication using data-driven approaches to identify communication gaps at Facebook. And then for emotional communication, emotional connection, she used openness about personal challenges itself, fostering the culture of empathy. Her own adversaries could be a classical example as to how an individual has to navigate these challenges and keep up their focus and morale high. So compassionate leadership is her style. It could be her style where she exhibited both, building a supportive, open culture, inspiring trust and loyalty, also using strategic mechanisms. Because without either of this, there has to be an integration of objective and subjective approaches. Okay. Only then the results can be optimal. Now, at this point in time, you may have so many questions. Where do I stand in terms of how much was I able to understand the cues of others? What are the body language signs that I have to read? And am I able to recognize their nonverbal cues? Do I really manage my own emotions well? Can I manage the other person's emotions? All these questions are quite normal, and it could be really be daunting at this point of time, especially when we have opened your third eye towards mastering emotional insight. I'm going to have you I'm going to give you a gift. Okay. What I'm saying is you're going to start assessing today itself about your emotional insight. Okay. I'm actually preparing EQ quiz bundles for all these 100 episodes. It is a tedious thing. I'm going to be preparing and getting it to you. The link in the description is given there. So please register there. The moment the quiz bundles are ready, you're going to access it right away. Okay. Don't worry, you're going to be with me for the 100 episodes, and this quiz bundles will have all the topics necessary there, and it's going to come to you lifetime. All I'm asking is, in any of these episodes, in fact, today, what you learned, if you can engage and put it as a comment. So I'll know that you are a sincere person, and I'm going to approach you for an email ID. And that's how I'm going to give you this EQ quiz bundles for you for a lifetime. You can access that anytime. Okay. So you will find out a fun questionnaire where you can answer, you will get a score, and thereby you will know what is the right way to approach, and also two, three tips for each and every field, so that in the questionnaire itself, you will get about 20 to 30 expertise tips. That'll be lovely, right? Because you're learning and gaining so many things at one place. Okay. And then you can learn more by coming to my masterclass that's exclusively for women only, where we're going to have a workshop for brain skills, how to identify your brain styles. Which one are you really powerful at? Is it a left brain approach or a right brain approach, or are you already in the midbrain? You would like to know, right? I love to know my brain styles. Every other 6 months once, I pick up my brain styles to understand where I'm standing right now. And accordingly, I align my goals. In fact, by the end of the year, we, as a family also, we pick up the reports. Me and my husband will make sure that we go through the brain styles and then accordingly align our goals. Okay. It helps both to align not just the professional goals, it also helps us to align the personal goals. When we are able to understand our own brain skills, brain talents, so it is easier for us to adjust our communication and approach. It's the same thing. You'll be wondered to see how your teammate, acting in their own brain styles. If you can see, I can't expect everybody to have their brain style. It's not practical, right? But if you are able to identify what is your brain style, then you will be able to read the same in others. So that will be a complimenting for you. You can be on an advantageous edge. But it's exclusive for women, and register there. You will get notified whenever it's going to happen. It'll be a fun learning. It'll be a very new perspective towards emotional intelligence at all. And of course, there are free resources for everybody. Okay, for any gender, for any age group, for any level. So you can go through. If you've not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would highly recommend you to do so, so that this live or any videos I publish, it's going to come to you. Okay. Second thing is subscribe to my Spotify, because I'm going to be discussing the same topic in a very, bite-sized information, directly targeting only examples and brain hacks in the form of a podcast. Okay. On the fly, on the go, you can listen to it. And then I'm also bringing articles, blog format, in a most storified learning way to understand emotional intelligence challenges and how to overcome them. Okay. Everything is out there for you to digest, ingest, and assess and act on it. Okay. But you need to remember that all these are not soft skills. These are life skill. And you being empathetic and clear about your communication, your words, your demeanor, your approach, it is only going to enhance the understanding from others. That is how you're going to build the trust and loyalty, no matter whether you're doing it at work or in family. Either ways, your empathetic approach and the clarity in which you approach is very, very important, for which you need to make use of these talents called emotional insights, where you can gather and read those emotions. It's a very, it's like a secret sauce. You don't have to tell anybody that you're able to read them, right? You will do that. It's very powerful. No, they will not even know that you've read them actually. So with that powerful skill, you can better your communication and improve that relationship. Okay. With that being said, tomorrow I'll see you with another interesting episode. I want you to subscribe. I want you to first of all give me a like and love symbol if you really thought this is a very insightful session. If you gain something out of this, please engage your comments there, and it'll be an inspiration for me. Like and share it with somebody whom you think it's most needed, because that's how we're going to spread emotional intelligence awareness. And I'd see you in the episode coming tomorrow with a interesting, more interesting